Admiral Haney, I don't think I've ever publicly thanked you for the time and effort you spent. It's been 2 years now, it's hard to believe, at the Joint Base Pearl Harbor. The dedication, the time that we spent there, that was beyond the call of duty, and I thank you very much for that. I think that Senator Reid and Senator McCain both talked about the nuclear arsenal and some of the problems in the triad delivery system. I think we can talk about the problems that we have with ours. The age of the B-2, of the B-52 and the ICBM, 34 years old, and the fact that we have our spending has just declined steadily since the Cold War. You know, when you look at what Admiral Rogers has taken on, at least our spending has increased in that area, but it's continued to decrease. And I think when you talk about the triad, I guess that Russia is the only country that has a triad system, even though it's my understanding that China and India are developing such a system. Is that correct?
Senator, currently China has both submarines and intercontinental ballistic missiles, and they are developing more and more of a bomber fleet. Their intentions, as you know, in China are not very transparent, so time will tell on that answer.
But that's accurate, though. They're not there yet in terms of the triad.
That's correct. As you mentioned, Russia not only is modernizing their triad, but they're also modernizing their industrial base associated with it. Mm-hmm. And that, too, is something that we have to integrate into our calculus. And not just India, but Pakistan is also developing.
Where are they now in their delivery systems?
They have been clearly invested into cruise missiles, and they have been just recently, having tested a intercontinental ballistic missile capability.
Okay. Well, you spent some time talking about the problems that we have, and we, you know, for the last 20 years we've been talking about this, and that and the system gets older and older, and we don't seem to do anything about it. But we don't talk as much about the others, the other people out there, even Iran. I think it was General Stewart was here last week or the week before, and he warned us that in Iran, they're continuing to develop the nuclear weapons and could soon test a space launch vehicle that could double as a long-range missile. Now, that's pretty frightening because we're no longer looking at just the superpowers that are developing this capability.
That's correct, Senator. And very recently, Iran also had a space launch vehicle to send a satellite in space. But not just them, North Korea frequently parades their KN-08 intercontinental ballistic missile.
Yeah, and the KN-11, I guess it is. Well, then you agree with General Stewart?
Yes,
that Iran is developing that capability too. Admiral Rogers, I became very close to your predecessor, Alexander, and you and I have talked about that. And one of the things that's interesting about the cyber issue is it's something that people don't know anything about. Americans don't understand it. They think about hackers and identity theft and that type of thing, but they don't really know how it works. But they know it needs more funding. Mm. And that puts you in a different situation than anybody else is in. Now, that's one of the few areas where the DoD budget has been enhanced. Right now, it's up. It's $14 billion proposed increase on cybersecurity this year, up $1 billion from last year. Now, we have heard what would happen. What would be the first thing that you would have to do, and the consequences should the sequestration come in?
The first impact I'd probably see is that the services would tell me I can't generate the mission force that you're counting on to execute the mission, so I'd have to go to my fellow commanders operationally and say, I'm either going to need to reprioritize and redistribute existing manpower and capability and remove it from you and provide it to someone else, or you're just going to have to go without. The other thing that concerns me about sequestration, because I still hear this from my civilian workforce in particular at Cyber Command, my workforce still talks at times about the impact of the government shutdown when they didn't come to work. And I remember telling them at the time, stay the course with us, the nation needs you, we need you. I believe that this is just a temporary aberration and that hopefully over time we'll have stability and you can build a long-term career with us. Because quite frankly, for most of the workforce that I'm responsible for leading, they could make a whole lot more money on the outside, and they are gobbled up. Whenever they decide they want to leave, they have no problems getting jobs. If we go into the sequestration scenario, one of my concerns is, does the workforce say, aha, this is just another example of how I cannot count on stability with the government, so maybe I need to go to the private sector.
Yeah, you know that my time's expired, but that was exactly the primary concern that Alexander had when he was in that, because the people, there's a huge market for your guys on the outside. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.